Well, hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar from Fortra. I inherited an IBM I. Please help. So are you new to IBM I? Perhaps you spent your career as a network admin or developer on Windows or Unix, or perhaps you've lost your IBM I talent and aren't sure where to start with your new hires initiation to the platform. We don't want you to push them over the cliff without a parachute, so hang in there. This webinar is designed to be your initiation to this thing called IBM I running on Power. Lots of different terminology that we're going to talk about today, some advanced, some pretty basic. And I've got some of my IBM I expert coworkers with me today. Alejandro, I'll introduce myself first. Chuck Lisinski, Director of Technical Solutions at Fortra. Been with Fortra for quite a long time, about 25 years now, focused primarily on IBM I, talking automation and cybersecurity. Ale.
Hey, this is Alejandro Lázaro. I've been with Fortra for about a year and a half. Before that, I was an IBM admin since 2005. I'm a senior technical consultant working with PowerTech and Robot products. So we have also Amne. Oh, there, Amne.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amneris Teruel. I work with the IBM I for a very long time, and for a very long time, I'm working in Fortra, previously Help Systems named, and I love working with this platform. I have started working with it when I was a student, so happy to share this meeting with you.
And Amneris, you're also an IBM champion. What does that mean?
Yeah, I am. IBM has a plan where they distinct people in the world that work with a platform, and they help in promoting the platform, letting people know what that it's about. And I've got that distinction, and I'm proud of it. Thank you, IBM, for that.
Awesome. Yep. And I'll also mention that I'm part of our local user group called Q User, and held various roles in that. And we're going to talk a little bit about user groups, both in the US and internationally, as we go through today's webinar. Amneris, you want to take us through the agenda?
Yeah, sure. So we are gonna go through these topics. We're gonna talk a little about the landscape of the IBM I, the community, then talk what is this about. Discussing green screen versus GUI, what are menus, what are commands, any help that we could have on the platform, then about getting work done in the IBM I, and finally advanced topics. And when we listen to our customers that have an IBM I and they are new in the platform, we listen for this type of sentences. I have inherited an IS400. I am the only one in the planet that has to deal with this. What are the similarities to Windows, to Linux? Does it have future? There are so many questions. And during this webinar, we want to show you why we affirm that this is a platform that it's new it's not, I shouldn't say new, it's modern in the environment today. Even it was created about 30 years ago, it has been evolving year by year, and today it's a great platform. We are gonna go through many topics today to demonstrate that it is. So if you have an IBM I in your hands today, you should be proud. And it's a challenge. There's a lot to learn and a lot of things that you can be doing with the platform, even you may not imagine. And you know that in Fortra for several years, we've been doing a survey. We call it the IBM I Marketplace Survey every year. And we ask people that have IBMI systems in their data center, we ask them many questions. And one of the topics that we always ask is about what is their main concern. And this is the graphic that we got this year. Note that IBMI skills are in the 4th place. That's important. That's why we are having this webinar today. And the other topics that are coming to the left, we start with cybersecurity. Security, it's a concern all the time, not only in IBMI, in many platforms also, but you know that we can help you in Fortra with our solutions in that topic. Then the second challenge, it's modernizing applications. And the third, it's high availability and disaster recovery. In the last year, there was a movement. High availability was second and modernizing applications was third, but they stay there. So, and it is interesting to analyze that modernizing applications and IBMI skills are really very related. How could I modernize an application that was written 20 years ago if I don't have enough skills? So let's go through the webinar today and hope we could help on all this. This map is showing all those companies that have answered our survey, how they are distributed. Most of them are in the USA. Another big set is in Europe. And we in our survey, it's interesting, but because we get a wide a wide range of customers in different areas. So if we move forward, Chuck, this is the set of industries that have answered the survey. Ale, Chuck, what you think about this distribution?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So I speak with a lot of our clients and prospects, of course, and this really does reflect my conversations with those folks. A lot of banking and finance, that would include insurance. And it's interesting when you go out there and you learn about all the various companies that run IBMI, including in retail. I actually speak with, recently I've spoken with a number of software developers who use our tools on IBMI. Another big area that we speak to are people in the logistics, transportation industry, and distribution. So some of these industries are related, like distribution and logistics, of course. I just got off the phone not more than 2 hours ago with a local city government that uses IBMI. So a widely diverse group of folks on IBMI. Ellie, how about you?
Yeah, it's same thing with me. From banking to government, passing from healthcare and logistics. Lots of industries, lots of uses for the IBMI. So yeah, it has a great diversity on the platform, on the industries that use this platform.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about who is getting into the IBMI world now. And what you see in front of you are a bunch of rising stars on IBMI, and this is part of a program that is being promoted by Tech Channel. And we've got a link at the bottom of the screen. Certainly you can Google Tech Channel and Rising Stars and read some of the biographies of some of the younger generation who are adopting this platform and not just learning how to do things the old way, but bringing new ideas and new technologies to the platform. Really excited about the future of the platform, or I'm really excited about it. It's got a very bright future and a lot of good folks that are adopting the technology. In terms of development languages, if you're new to the platform, you might not be aware of the traditional language that's been used on the platform for many years, and that's RPG, RPG stands for Report Program Generator. It was a language that was developed by IBM many years ago with the very strict rules, and it has been developed over the years to be literally a free format type language. And I've spoken with a number of developers on the platform that weren't exposed to what was called the fixed format non-ILE RPG version back in the day, and they're able to adopt into the RPG language development, maybe only having previously developed in PHP, Java, Python, etc. So other languages that are very well supported on the platform, and what we're seeing people use, we're seeing a lot of SQL. CL is the development language or the command language that's built into the operating system. Java, PHP, we still see COBOL. Python is catching on rapidly, .NET is catching on rapidly, etc. So there's a lot of modern development languages that are happening on IBM I, which is really exciting. And we have a little success story to report on here at Fortra. One of our initiatives, of course, is to provide internships and to generate interest in the platform in local community colleges and other tech programs in the US. And we provided an internship to a couple of folks who were in the program at the Muskegon Community College. They have a IT program that includes an IBM I curriculum. All right, so they're at least exposed to the platform. All right, and in this case, this was a 2-year degree, and they have been brought in to our organization. They're now full-time employees, and they are continuing to develop our IBM I technologies. Amneris.
Yeah, that's great. I have started the same way, not hired by Fortra at that time, but there was a company. I'm located in Argentina, and there was a company hiring students. And when I went to the office the first day, they told me, okay, there is a new platform. It's the IBM I, at that time AS400. You should learn everything. And they gave me a lot of printed manuals that I should look through. And that's that was how I have started.
And so, Alex, how about you? How'd you get started on the platform?
Well, basically, I was working with IBM, and there was an opening on the services section of IBM back in 2004. So I joined them because I spoke English, and I started working for IAM, Logical and Access Management. And at some point, they were trying to promote people, and I selected the IBM I. At that time was the I series, because it was like a challenge. It was like the misunderstood platform that was the weird choice, but I saw in it a lot of potential. I saw it a challenge, and I went there.
Awesome.
And yeah, unlike Amneris, who learned from printed manuals, I actually learned from online manuals. So it's basically the same.
Wow. Yeah, and I get, so the point is that, we're all, we didn't go to school necessarily for the platform, but we learned, and there are a lot of resources out there for education on IBM I. So there's the community portal from IBM. Common.org is our organization that supports all things IBM I in terms of our user community. And they actually have a couple of boot camps sponsored by Fortra. There's a system administrator boot camp, and there's also security boot camp. There's Common Europe. Tech Channel was already mentioned. There's a great newsletter feed, IT Jungle. You can check their website out. Empower Technologies. That's a company that does RPG and RDI education. So if you're new to the language, that'd be a great place to start. Peg Tuttle does something called the Incredible I Podcast, sponsored by Common. So if you want to learn a little bit more about technologies or a little bit of the history of the the platform and who's working with it and what the great things they're doing, that'd be a great place to start. There's more of a international power newsletter by Toborn that you could subscribe to. Charlie Garino does his iChime, which is a community live event. And I'd really like to emphasize local user groups. There's a link on our Fortra website that talks about the user community, and it's quite broad. So internationally, there are various user groups located in a lot of different countries. And likewise, we have a pretty broad spectrum of user groups across the US and Canada, TUG being the Toronto user group. I'm involved with Q User. It says Minnesota, but we've got members from all over the country. If you're looking for a user group to join, check out quuser.org and take a look at some of our presenters that we've had in the past. So just to summarize, attracting talent, if you're concerned about keeping and attracting talent, think about a couple things. First of all, you're not going to find somebody who's an expert on IBMI. So you're going to have to mentor them on that technology. And we recommend pairing them up with somebody who really understands the business and the business logic, because that's probably the hardest thing for somebody new to understand. They'll get the technology. Also, certainly you can contact the local technical colleges and offer internships. Be open to new techniques and tools like Rational Developer, which is basically Eclipse for the eye. Think about things like RPG free format, maybe even adopting new languages like Python and PHP. And because you're doing that, of course, you have to continue your own education. So think about those resources that we just discussed, and possibly even look at, there's another boot camp, there's an RPG boot camp available from Common as well. Jim Buck from Empower Technologies, who does the RPG and RDI training, says, you know what, the problem's not the kids, and you see some of them down below here that actually work for us at Fortra. It's more about the business adapting to the young guns, so to speak, the new faces on IBMI, and give them the right tools, modern tools like RDI to do development, but also teach them about the green screen. All right, Ellie, let's talk about this thing called AS what?
AS what? Yes, it's also sometimes refers to 400. But what's actually IBMI? IBMI is one of the 3 OS that can run on the Power servers, which are the same servers that run the Watson environment too. Now, what makes the IBMI unique? It has a built-in DB2 database, which is comes with the OS and has become a highly scalable database server for the SQL access. The OS is object-oriented, so you can have physical files, programs, subsystems, job descriptions, library, everything is an object. The object has a type and you cannot change types. So that's unique to the IBMI. Regarding work management, this is the IBMI is a virtual environment that runs on top of a VM. What's a virtual machine? And we actually refer to them as partitions or LPARs, logical partitions. They have subsystems, they have memory pools, they have job queues. You can have different servers on the system, HTTP servers, for instance. These servers, they have the option to use internal, which now they are really, really fast NVMe disk drives or external disks. The security on the OS is also oriented to the object. You have object security, but you also have system level security, which makes the IBMI highly securable. It's highly scalable. It runs in the cloud, so you can have a private cloud with one of these really big systems like the one we are seeing on the picture, or you can go to a public cloud, or you can do both and have a hybrid cloud. It supports traditional and open source development languages like PHP, Java, Yum, MySQL, Node.js, OpenSSL, Ruby, Git, and of course, the more traditional ones like RPG, COBOL, and C. And it has lots of high availability options, and it's a highly recoverable platform. So going back in history, this comes all from System 3, which was born back in 1969. Then it developed into System 32 in 75 and System 38 in 78. But in parallel, and as part of a plan to try and do the next best thing before the mainframe, they were developing System 38 that, along with System 36, it ended up being the AS400 in 1988. So that's when the AS400 is born. From that time, it kept evolving. It was, as we said, it was born in 1988. In 2000, it turned into the I series, and during this life cycle, in 2000 it turned to the I series. In 2008, it started sharing hardware with the AIX. It started working on the power systems, and now it's called and it started being called the IBMI. And now in 2023, it's the IBMI, and runs on the latest power hardware. During all of this travel, the IBMI OS remained the same. Even though the underlying structure changed, and that's because how robust it is and how it runs on top of a virtualization layer. So that's something huge.
Ale, do you know
Yep.
why it's the I appearing in the name? IBM I series. Why I? It's because of integrated.
I'm thinking, yes. I think so,
Everything is
yeah.
integrated. Languages, database, security, everything is in there. So it's
Yep.
that's what the I stands for.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So basically, if we go and take a look at the library structure, because it's the very first thing that we got with AS400 was a library structure. So we had libraries that they have objects inside, that each object can have a type. The type cannot change. So it's like a file cabinet, which each system having many cabinets, and you can have one for the system QSys, and you can have a cabinet for your ERP software where you can keep all of your records. And then you can have the libraries for third party. And the library names, normally, if they start with a Q, they are for their IBM libraries. And you can have libraries with your name using other letters, of course. And of course, all of the objects come in a library. But then when they started trying to make the IBM I more compatible with the rest of the OS, they came up with the directory structure. And the library structure is actually inside this directory structure. This directory structure is called the IFS, the Integrated File System, which is basically an emulation of a PC and a Unix-like directory. The IBMI has access to it. It can have Unix or Windows data, domino data. You can have any kind of data, binary data like images. It has directories, subdirectories, files. You can have file shares there. And basically, it has folders and documents like Windows. And like I said before, it contains the library structure. The library structure is a folder there that is called qsys.lib. So all your library is there on the IFS, actually. It's like mounted on the IFX. And you can access the IFS using commands like work link, or using the GUI, the navigator GUI, or the menu Go commandeer. And those are some examples of the directories that we have. So some basic terminology that we have on the IBM I world, well, like I said before, we use partitions, which are actually are named logical partitions, LPARs, and they actually mean virtual machines. And we had them long before the rest of the world had virtual machines. Then we have the PTF and TRs, which are the OS patches, because every system sometimes needs something to be fixed, and that's how we get the system fixed. IPL is the initial program load. It's when you need to reboot the system for some reason, mostly to apply PTFs. DAST is how we call the disk system. The disk, either spinning disk, it can be SSD, it can be SAN storage. Then we have the ASP, which is the auxiliary storage pool, which can be a portion of disk that is separated from the main disk, and you can move it from LPAR to LPAR. And it's one of the foundations of PowerH8, but I think that we will talk about it later. The main memory is basically the RAM, but we need to understand that this OS has a single space of memory. So it's something that's mind-blowing, but it's really cool. And also we have memory pools, which that's something that Tom Huntington says it's something that Windows can only dream about. You basically get to create memory pools and you get to assign them to your subsystems. I mean, this is a way to manage your workload, to assign priority to your workload, to assign resources to your workload. And it's a great way to do it. And it's not legacy. The IBM I is it kept modernizing its proven technology. It's a development from the AS400, but it's been progressing since then. It's like calling Windows 11 legacy Windows 3.1. So it's not quite right. So Amneris, what about the security landscape?
Security. You know, the IBM I is famous because of its security, or the S400 was already famous at that time because it is known as one of the most secure systems. But that's a risk because somehow many administrators rely on that idea just to think that they don't have to do anything related to security because the system is secure by its own. And the real thing it is that the system is highly securable. So we have to do some work on that. When you get the default settings of the system, when you get the system as it comes from the IBM provider, it's not secure enough. We need to work on that. And one risk that we are having today, it is that there are many IBMIs that come from long time ago, and they still have the security configured as 20 years ago. And threats have changed. The security landscape has changed. New malwares, new risks appear, and we need to update that security configuration. We publish in Fortra a study every year, the state of IBMI security study. This study has many statistics about security that we get from our customers. And that study shows what I'm telling you, that there are a lot of work to do in security in the IBMI. And we offer to you the free security scan on the Fortra security scan. This is an activity that we can do together with you just to take a look to your system and generate a report based on how that system is configured. If you go to the next slide, Chuck, there's an example there where we evaluate. Oh, it's not. Oh, sorry. That is further. Sorry for that. In that security scan, we are able to discuss with you about the some categories like connectivity, users, system values, auditing, and many other categories to check how they are set up in your system versus best practices or what many normatives ask to have. So feel free to contact us to obtain this security scan and do that activity together, you and someone from the Fortra side. And going back to the cybersecurity challenges, again, this is based on the studies that we do every year. The most important challenge for our customers is the lack of security knowledge and skills. Again, this skills topic coming again. And other challenges like threats are changing constantly, and the IBMI has history on that because this system has experienced all this evolving in risks and the history of them. And the third challenge that our customers find is balancing security control and business efficiency. You know, in many cases, when we do our scans, for example, we find out many users with high privileges, like all object, many of them. And customers know that that's something that should be changed, but they don't do that because they think that they may put in risk the availability of the applications, or they may bring some operational problem. So all the time they are fighting within, if I improve the security, then what happens with the availability? So that's something that it's in mind for every IBMI administrators. So if you need help, we are there to help you. Okay, Ale, your time.
Okay, so we are going to talk a bit about the way we interact with the IBMI, the green screen versus the GUI. So this is the famous green screen that you normally see when you're facing an IBMI. And this was developed over 40 years ago by IBM so their users could interact with the IBMI. But it's basically a command line interface, only that you can have menus and it's intuitive to use. So I wonder what will happen if, like, you have the chance, you will change the colors of the letters to white. You will see a Linux-like CLI command line interface. So that makes you wonder why people is sometimes afraid of this green screen. It supports Telnet protocol. The same thing with Linux. The administration is far easier to do from the green screen than from any GUI. So you still see this one around. We also have a navigator for I, which we will see it later. And the right way to use the green interface using all the nice features that it has is the Access Client solution by IBMI, which is a Java software. So it will basically run anywhere. And it's a really, really great tool. So now we are seeing the old web interface, which was really cool. And you can perform there all of the administrative tasks that you can do on the green screen. Sometimes there are some tasks that you can only do from here. For instance, work with the certificates. But it's a really nice tool, and it was changed over the last year by this new interface, which is the new navigator. You can access it by using the port 2002. It's actually the navigator for right now. And you can see that it has a more modern look and feel. It still does not quite support all of the features that were supported by the old version, but they are getting there. I mean, with the latest TRs and the latest patches, we're getting to, IBM is getting to support everything. So Chuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LA, what's a TR?
Oh, yeah, TR is something that we discussed before. You have PTFs, which are like the patches, and TRs are the technology refresh. So whenever there's a new technology that will be added to the IBM to the IBM OS version, these new technologies are gathered together and they're launched on a TR, on a technology refresh. And we have IBM launches them on a yearly basis sometimes. And I think that 7.5 is at TR number 3 now, right? Or 2, or I don't recall now. But that's the way that IBM has to launch new features and new technologies.
More terminology and acronyms. And
That's right.
yeah, back in 1990, when I was first learning the operating system, I got to know the command line interface quite well because that was the only thing that was available at that time. And so I thought we'd jump into some of the handy features that make the command line interface a lot easier to use than, for instance, the Unix interface. All right, so first of all, just starting with menus, IBM has built into the operating system a number of menus and menu options to make the administration of the system fairly straightforward. So to get to a menu at the command line, you simply type go, and then the menu that you're interested in. So learning about the menu names, of course, is important, and this is a reference for you. For instance, Go Security, Go Security Tools, Go Save, Go Restore, Go PTF. These are all menus that IBM has created in advance just to make your world a little bit easier to navigate around. So first of all, of course, as an administrator, you would need command line access. That can be removed from users as well, so they cannot execute commands. And then you just type in go and where you want to go to, and you'll see that menu then, menu name in the upper left-hand corner, and you can even set an initial menu with the F23 key, so when you sign on to the system, that's the first menu that you'll be presented. Now on to commands. This was something else that challenged me, but there's a logic to it. IBM created a prefix and a suffix to the command. So if you want to create something, it's a 3-character abbreviation, CRT, display, work, send, change, copy, start, etc. And then the object type you want to work with, libraries, objects, jobs, messages, message queues, user profiles, writers, etc. All right, and then there are some nouns as well, and you basically combine those together, work lib, work object, work file, and so forth. And then IBM did something wonderful. They took all the commands that do specific tasks like create, delete, change, add, and they combine those into what we call a work command, WRK. So with the work command, you get those commands that are behind the scenes, so to speak, like create and delete, copy, and so forth, without having to know the actual command. So I can execute all these options here on this one particular library because I executed the work lib command and specified my SQL EX or examples library. Here's another work command. This is the work object command. Very helpful. But what I wanted to show you is some additional function keys. That's something else you get used to in the operating system. You've got 24 function keys. And with commands in the operating system, there's something called prompting. So if anybody ever tells you to prompt a command, that means you've typed in the command and you've pressed the F4 key. And I really wish Unix had this. What happens is that the command then will prompt you for all the various parameters that are available on the command. And likewise, there's cursor sensitive help as well as command level help. So wherever my cursor is located, I can hit F1 and I can get some help on those individual fields, or I can just put my cursor right here on the description of the command and get some help on the overall command as a whole. Likewise, here I've executed work object and I'm working with all my objects in the SQL EX library. Alex was saying how each object has a type associated with it and that cannot be changed. So here's a good example of that, along with all the options that are available because I use the work command. Here's some tips on finding commands. This is Amneris' favorite tip. Is if you're just looking for a command, and this is very helpful. I can just type a wildcard, WRK asterisk at the command line will show me all the work commands that are in my library list. That's something we're not going to talk about specifically, but all the libraries that are associated with your job, your interactive job, you'll see all those. And I can just type literally the first character. I could just do a W asterisk and it would show me all the commands that start with W. So here's some examples for you to refer to. And what might be really helpful for you is to start creating your own cheat sheet or command reference for all the commands that you use on a regular basis. So here's an example of a cheat sheet that I probably created back in 1992 or so when I was first learning the operating system. So there's a little homework, and here's a little more homework for you. Learn about what licensed programs are, and this is actually the option you can go to if somebody asks you what your OS level is. Type Go License Program, take option 10, and then press the F11 key, and you'll see what operating system level is installed on your server. Work with license information, work system status to look at storage and memory pools. More on memory pools here, working with shared pools. Amneris is going to take us through subsystems and jobs. Elliot talked about libraries. The directory structure is accessed with the work link or work with object links command. User profiles or users on the system, you can look at all of them, or you can specify. Remember, all these commands can be prompted as well. All right, so there's your homework. Let's learn about how work gets done on the system.
Okay, so how it is done. You know that the system is multi-user, multi-tasks. It can be working and with many activities at the same time, of course, but how is that done? I encourage you to take a look to a manual in the documentation in IBM. It's a guide called Work Management. It is great because it describes in a high level how this works. And that's what I'm going to try to do now very shortly. But again, if you need to understand better how this box works from a logical perspective, this is the right guide, Work Management. Because work management describes how jobs enter the system, how they execute inside there, and how they finish, which resources they use, what outputs they get. And from the IBM administrators, you will hear that we are always mentioning jobs. We don't call them processes normally, we call them jobs. The job, it's the set of activity that has a unique identifier that you can recognize in the system, that it starts and ends. And that job may be divided, or it has several subsets that are called threads. Each job runs using a specific user profile. So anything in the system runs regarding a user. Even maybe a job that may be running in the background, what we call batch jobs, or an interactive one, or an activity, a job serving something in the web. It doesn't matter. Everything is running under a user. And those jobs, any job, runs in a subsystem. It's not running anywhere. It has an environment that defines how the job should run. So there are different type of jobs, batch, interactive, HTTP. There are services running in the box, but any of them is running in a specific subsystem. And what is a subsystem? It is a place where to do work, where a job could run. It is resource oriented. You define in a subsystem how many jobs could be running in there at the same time, the location of the memory that they should take, priorities. There are many aspects of the subsystem that define how jobs inside that subsystem will be running. Those subsystems are objects. As Ale already said, everything in the IBMI is a job, is an object. A subsystem, it's an object type subsystem description. Okay, so that type of object describes the subsystems, and a subsystem could be started and ended. Start subsystem and end subsystem are the commands. So when you start a subsystem, that environment is prepared to receive jobs. While a subsystem is running, you are able to change properties like the memory, the size of the memory pools that are assigned, how many jobs may be running inside there. You may be modifying that without affecting directly the jobs. That can be done without the need of stopping and starting the subsystem again. And somehow, subsystems, it's a virtualization within the IBMI. So even the partition, Ale already mentioned that in a physical box, you may have several partitions that are virtual machines, and within it, virtual machines, within each LPAR, you may be defining subsystems. Some common subsystems that appear in the operating system when you get it are those that are starting with the letter Q. You know that in the IBMI, the Q, it's a specific letter. Even you may be creating objects starting with Q, not recommended. Those coming from IBM, they are named like that, and you can find the Q control subsystem, the Q inder for interactive jobs, Q control for control activities, Q batch for batch jobs, communications, spool, HTTP, system work, user work, servers. So these are standard subsystems. You can create your own subsystems if you want for running your applications. And as I already said, starting a subsystem is the command start SBS. When the subsystem starts, pools are allocated, so memory is assigned for that subsystem to run its jobs. There are pre-start jobs that are run when the subsystem is started, maybe for setting up something. They are auto-start jobs, so jobs that will be starting within the subsystem automatically. For example, listening jobs that are listening or waiting for requests. They are the auto-start jobs. Display stations are allocated, job queues, communication devices. So everything is set up just to run and ready to rock. So getting back to the job concept, what is a job? An operating environment that enables work onto the system. everything running in the system is a job somehow. And as said before, they have a name, they have a number. Jobs are recognized by 3 aspects: number, user, and name. These 3 together identify a unique job in the system forever. And there are different type of jobs. If you look at the jobs running, you see a column that it's indicating the type of job: interactive, writers, batch immediate, auto start, and many others. So again, remember, if you want to take a look to the activity, take a look to the jobs. Let's move to the advanced topics then.
Okay, so we are going to discuss disaster recovery and high availability now. So remember when we saw the survey, the third top concern for the IT environment is HA and DR. And don't know, I'm nervous if you had any talks about this lately with customers.
Yes, and they are really worried. Fortunately, today, customers have several possibilities. Long time ago, the only possibility for having high availability was replicating by software. Today, there are many other options, and that it's great because customers can select the best configuration that fit their environment. I find it a great situation today.
And it's lots more of awareness now that they need to have at least TR, if not HA. So that didn't happen in the past. So this is another of the questions, and this is why we got into the world of HA. If you can see, if customers need to recover from a disaster, 60% recover from high availability, and still 54% recover from tape. So that's not HA, that's DR, that's disaster recovery. HA, high availability, means that you can recover with a minimum RTO and RPO, a minimum recovery point of objective and a minimum recovery time objective. While if you need to recover from tape, you need to go and get the tape from the tape vault and then restore, and that takes a lot of time. But still, if you're recovering from tape, you need to make sure that you're saving what you need to save. And for that, DOS has several options. This is the native go save command that, as you can see on the first screen, you have the option to save single objects. And if you go to the next page, which is on the right side, you have the really widely known option 21, which is the way that you have to save your entire system. This is the way that you can actually save the entire system and recover it either on your system or on another hardware. And the thing about this is that it requires an outage, a downtime, and it requires also attention. You need to check your backup. What is it doing? So here we have on the next slide, please, we have a chart of what gets saved with each option, and it's a really cool chart. And you can see that option 21 saves the entire system, whilst option 22, it only saves the OS and the licensed programs, and option 23 saves the security data, the configuration data, and the user libraries. So yeah, and then you also have the commands save sys, which saves the OS and the security data and the configuration. And you can have a save leave non-sys, which will save the user libraries and the licensed programs, the things that are not related to the OS. You can do a sub-leave IBM and save only the IBM things. Then you can do a sub-leave all user and only save the all the user libraries. So there are lots of ways to save in the system, but the most important thing is that you need to have reliable backups. You can only recover from a reliable backup, and it's highly recommendable that your backup doesn't end in error. A backup ending in error is not a good backup. So, and I saw many customers with this having a backup ending in error and saying it's okay, it's a minor error, and then they couldn't recover. So you need to pay attention to that. Now,
Yeah,
what should
and also
yeah.
Sorry, Ali, also testing your backups.
Oh, testing your backups.
We have recently had a situation where a customer had a ransomware affecting their IBMI, and when they tried restoring from backups, they noted that they had errors, that they couldn't do the restores. So
yeah,
test them
and
frequently.
I bet that they had errors, that they saw those errors and they said, okay, this is nothing. It happens. This happens all of the time. This must be an object in use. No, you cannot get used to a backup ending in error. So let's talk about HA instead. Instead of saving every night your stuff, HA, in this case, our product, Robot HA, relies on the journals that the system has. The journal is a way to recollect the information that's being changed on the objects that the system have, and you have a local journal receiver that gathers that information, and you use a remote journal receiver on the remote system that will also get that information. And all of the changes that you're making on production, they get applied on your backup side by our software. And this is the way to have two systems that look the same. And in case that you have a new item on your production, the HA solution will save it and it will replicate it directly to restore it on the backup side. And from now on, that new object will also be journaled and will start be replicating by journaling the next time. So
Alex,
that's yeah.
I'll also mention that, just like the built-in database and the built-in security,
Oh yeah,
the journaling is another built-in feature of the operating system, and that's really the beauty. It records all those changes, and then we leverage it to do the remote replication.
That's right. Yes, that's something that comes from the OS. That's initially it was thought to recover from errors to go back in time, but you can also do this, and that's the beauty. So now, if we can see there are other methods that they don't rely on other options that they don't rely on the journaling, like poached, which is basically hardware replication. And one important thing of this is that it's handled by the IBMI operating system. And remember one of the acronyms that we talk, ASP. Well, here you need an independent ASP that your data resides on, and that data from the independent ASP is replicated to another partition. So this is the way that poached works. It works with an independent ASP that's being replicated to an ISP that's not active on the destination subsystem, and this is done via the hardware. It requires a poached option. You can have the geographic mirroring, that's metro mirror, that's for shorter distances, or global mirror, that's for longer distances. It's really efficient because it relies on hardware. You don't need to run audits on it. It's faster, the roll ups are easier, and it's really efficient on the use of system resources. So this is great way to achieve high availability.
Yeah, one comment that I'll add to this is that with replicating at the IaaS level using PowerHA, it's all or nothing. Everything's going to be replicated. Right. Where journaling, you can be more specific. You could identify just those files or tables on your system that you want to journal and replicate. You might even be replicating off to another system where you're going to do your business intelligence queries from.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good application for a journal-based replication. But Alex, you're right on that the PowerHA is more hands-off.
Yeah, but you may end up having both solutions. I know customers that use PowerHA for HA, and then they use a software solution for business intelligence.
That's a great point.
Yeah, to replicate their data to be analyzed on a third system. So there's a place for both solutions.
Yep, kind of a hybrid implementation for sure.
Yep.
All right, well, that's all the technical content that we have in our webinar today. I do want to mention though that Fortra has been in the IBM I business for 40 years now. And we have a robust portfolio of technologies for doing everything from, we like to say, automation to BI. So backup and HA, document management, cybersecurity, monitoring technologies for the platform, our SQL BI technology. If you're going to be migrating to new hardware, Ellie, I know you do some capacity planning services. So make sure you size your new system correctly. Don't oversize it, don't undersize it. And our bread and butter, so to speak, our automation product line. And it is a computer system after all, and computer systems should be automated. There shouldn't be a whole lot of manual input when it comes to running processes. So at this time, we've got a couple of questions, and one of the questions that's come in is, will we be receiving a link to the recording? You absolutely will. You'll also be able to download the presentation slide deck. And certainly after the fact, if you do have any questions, we've got our contact information here. Feel free to reach out. Let's see, Amneris, here's a question for you. You talked a little bit about what your path was for learning IBM I. So maybe reflect on that a little bit and talk to us too about how you're learning some of the new technologies that are available.
Okay. I love working in a place like Fortra because I listen for a lot of challenges that our customers have, and they ask me how to solve that. So that is my main learning path, the challenges that appear every day. They come to me saying the business is changing, we require more and more connections, but today we have the security set up this way, how we can solve the security part or the automation. So in my experience, I've been learning based on what day to day the reality brought. And mainly I've been accessing many topics that you have mentioned, Chuck, before, forums, user groups, pages that were describing how to solve a specific issues, reading in other forums, not from the IBM I, but other forums in other platforms. And as IBM I, it's quite open today. Many solutions that you find out in other platforms can be applied in the IBM I environment too. So not to focus only in the IBM I information. It's interesting reading other things that can be used for IBM I too.
Great, and I would agree with you. That's how I do a lot of my learning. It's as we run into challenges with our clients and have to dig deep on that. Yeah, great, thank you. Here's another question, and this that's interesting. Is IBMI a mainframe? Ellie, you want to reply to that?
Sure, yeah. Well, it's not a mainframe. The OS is different, the hardware is different. The mainframe was developed earlier. It was is focused on transactions. These are big systems for lots and lots and lots of transactions, whilst the IBMI is focused more on the applications and to be an integrated server that can bring to you all the applications that you may need for your industry. So, and it has its own OS, so it's completely different.
Yeah, and we do know companies that run both.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's really usual to see them in pairs, even now that customers are tending to move away from their data center. Whenever the mainframe are going, you have IBMIs next to them.
Yeah, back in 1990, I helped a customer move off their mainframe into AS400 at the time.
Yeah.
One last question is about all we have time for, and the question is, are there any overlooked skills regarding learning the platform? You know, we learn a lot about the technical, and literally, I just had a conversation about an hour ago with one of our clients about this, and it's soft skills. So, you know, we're all technicians, we're all very technical, but don't ignore those soft skills, people skills. You know, whether you're dealing with a technical issue with one of your clients or coworkers, learn how to interact appropriately and learn the soft skills. And I've spoken with a number of our more high level, so to speak, people in the industry. And I always say that's one area that's somewhat overlooked. We do a lot of technical training, but we don't do a lot of soft skills training. And that's something that you should definitely pursue. And any comments on that?
That's great, Chuck. I agree.
Okay, yeah, and I will tell you both that you guys have wonderful soft skills, and I appreciate you joining me for today's webinar. And thanks everybody for your time today. I hope you got some nuggets out of today's webinar. If you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. And with that said, have a great day. Bye-bye.